Before parting, Snowy told Lu Sheng that the military star selection was over. The unified exam is just around the corner. She wanted Lu Sheng to make sure to get a certificate from the Psychic Association before the exam. Then, he will have access to the StarNet, allowing him to freely trade goods online. Lu Sheng nodded in acknowledgement ready to pack up and head out. Watching Lu Sheng, Snowy hesitated. Words were lingering on the tip of her tongue, emotions she wanted to express, but she just couldn't find the right words. As he grew distant, Chin approached, a mischievous grin on his face. In all these years of knowing Snowy, that's the first time he's seen such an expression from her. Perhaps Snowy have some feeling for Lu Sheng. Before he could finish, Snowy, flustered, landed a couple of playful punches on him, shushing his presumptuous remarks. Frustrated, she stormed off, hiding behind a door. There, she took a moment, heart fluttering, realizing this was the first time she'd felt this way about someone of the opposite gender, and it just happened to a man who's much younger than her. After a day's rest, above a forest located in the Dongning province, a massive black military helicopter hovered over a hill. The cabin door slid open. Amid the gushing winds that tousled everyone's hair, Snowy shouted over the noise, asking Lu Sheng if he was sure about alighting here. Clutching the helicopter's door, backpack strapped to his back, Lu Sheng turned, giving them a reassuring smile. Snowy was about to instruct the helicopter to lower its altitude so she could release a ladder, but before she could, Lu Sheng said there was no need. He waved a final goodbye, then released his grip and plunged towards the ground below. Stunned, Snowy could only watch as Lu Sheng rapidly diminished in size. Beside her, Chin darted forward, peering out in disbelief, calling Lu Sheng crazy. That's a 200-meter drop. Lu Sheng wasn't even wearing a parachute. He is out of his mind. Snowy, ever the calm one, simply replied, he won't get hurt. She stared below, realizing that the young man's abilities had long surpassed both of theirs. Relieved, Chin let out a sigh, shaking his head with a complicated expression. On the mountain below, a father and son were hiking. The dad held his son's hand, guiding him step by step. Suddenly, the little boy looked up and pointed to a figure in the sky. Above them, a dot rapidly grew larger, a silhouette descending from the heavens, enveloped in a golden glow. Is that Superman? The boy asked. Soon the man's gaze followed his son's. His pupils constricted the next second. He knew that the figure from the sky must have been a very powerful martial artist, at least of the 6th level, perhaps a grandmaster. The gales whipped past his ears. Lu Sheng, having undergone the first phase of immortal golden body refinement, felt every inch of his body, including muscles, bones, skin, and even his internal organs, undergo an immense transformation. Far surpassing the usual 4th, 5th, or even 6th level martial artists, he landed heavily on the mountain peak. The terrifying force shattered the ground beneath him, creating a massive crater. Looking down at the city below, he could still feel the vigorous energy coursing through him after reaching the 4th level. It might take about a month for this energy to fully integrate. He dashed forward, making his way down the mountain path. Lu Sheng noticed that his inner strength was golden in hue. Glancing at his hands, they seemed unbreakable. The father and son watched Lu Sheng in awe. The father, being a martial artist himself, managed to catch a brief glimpse of the falling figure, an extremely young-looking teenager, appearing to be around 18 years old, just like a high schooler. And this high schooler had just fallen hundreds of meters without a scratch. The man chuckled, shaking his head, thinking to himself that maybe Lu Sheng was equipped with some high-tech gear. Yet his expression was complex. Looking at the crater Lu Sheng left behind, his son persisted, asking his father once again, was that big brother a Superman? The father took his son's hand, trying to divert the boy's attention, saying, there's no Superman, they're just shooting a movie. The boy followed his father uphill, albeit reluctantly, his eyes fixed on the direction where Lu Sheng had disappeared. In the young boy's heart, Lu Sheng was definitely Superman. He thought to himself, his dad just won't admit it. Lu Sheng quickly arrived at the Psychic Association. The place seemed deserted, and he made his way directly to the front desk. There, he found a young man engrossed in his smartphone playing Genshin Impact.
What exactly is the sandbox then?
It's a 3D metaverse. The building blocks are voxels, which are like 3D pixels. You can even animate. By adding and removing blocks, you can make any landscape.
I don't know how to code.
No coding skills needed. As you place assets, you set how they'll behave and how players can interact with them. You can
When he saw Lu Sheng's recommendation letter, his expression shifted to one of complete astonishment. He looked at Lu Sheng, who seemed to have no psychic power, but given that the recommendation was from the military district, he treated Lu Sheng with respect. After all, he himself was formerly from the military. The young man promptly got up to lead Lu Sheng further inside. Following the young man, Lu Sheng entered a room where he saw 3 people, 2 young women and a balding middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was visibly shaking, intently focusing on controlling a metallic orb. As Lu Sheng observed, orbs of sweat formed on the man's forehead as he tried guiding the orb through a glass wall. Suddenly the ball wobbled, and not long after, it collided with the glass, causing a clear, shattering sound. Large cracks spread rapidly across the surface of the glass wall. The middle-aged man's concentration wavered, and the metallic orb dropped to the ground. Distraught, he stared at the orb. This was already his 6th attempt within the last decade. A staff member from the side consoled him, suggesting that breakthroughs at the man's age were hard to come by. Tearfully, the balding man left the room. Next up was a girl named Sophia. She had long, wavy blonde hair and a striking figure. The staff seemed familiar with her, noting that this was her 3rd time taking the test. Sophia responded with a huff, boasting that she became a level 1 psychic at the age of 20. Being 25 now, she felt that failing the level 2 exam a few times was nothing unusual. The staff member now turned his attention to Lu Sheng. The young man from the front desk gestured toward him and mentioned that he came with a recommendation from Snowy and had a referral letter from the military district. Sophia looked at Lu Sheng with curiosity, finding it hard to believe that such a young face could belong to a psychic practitioner. But regardless of Lu Sheng's abilities, she found him very handsome. Drawing closer, she introduced herself and complimented Lu Sheng on becoming a psychic practitioner at such a young age. She generously offered her help should he have any questions. Lu Sheng nodded in gratitude, then inquired if the task the bald man was attempting earlier was part of the assessment. Sophia, speaking from experience, began explaining to him the stages of the test. The first stage measures the strength and purity of one's psychic power using a machine. The second stage is a practical test where participants are required to control a certain number of small balls and guide them through holes in fragile glass walls without touching them. She explained that the glass is so delicate that a mere touch would shatter it. The bald man, being a level 1 psychic practitioner, had only 1 layer of glass to navigate through. But for her, as a level 2 psychic practitioner, she'd have to pass through 5 layers. Sophia clasped her hands and prayed fervently, hoping for a smooth process. When it was her turn, she nodded to the staff and quickly approached the machine, placing her hand on it. Soon, the hexagonal column lit up, and her results were displayed. The screen showed a psychic power strength of 11.33 and a purity level of 1.02. It was a borderline pass. Seeing this, Sophia breathed a sigh of relief. Now came the practical test. Unlike the level 1 assessment, a level 2 psychic had to control 15 metallic orbs simultaneously. The number of glass layers these orbs had to pass through was 5. However, the time allotted for this task was shortened to 20 seconds. With a solemn expression, Sophia used her psychic abilities to levitate the 15 metallic orbs in front of her. She looked visibly tense. Sophia took a deep breath and then rapidly controlled the 15 metallic orbs to shoot forward. Lu Sheng quickly realized that controlling 15 of these metallic orbs made out of mithril at the same time was a significant challenge for a level 2 psychic practitioner. At the same time, the psychic power needs to be restrained as much as possible. Participants need to simultaneously focus on 15 orbs and operate them closely. It looked far from easy. Sophia managed to swiftly pass the first layer of glass, full of confidence, and the second layer followed shortly after. She quickly adjusted their positions and managed to get through the third layer as well. Just as she was confident that she could reach the fourth layer, the staff member called out, stating that her first attempt had failed due to time being up. Deflated, Sophia didn't appear too upset. Taking a deep breath, she braced herself for another go. When she began, she picked up the pace from her previous attempt. The first 3 layers were smoothly cleared, the fourth was narrowly navigated, and with 12 seconds left, she headed for the 5th layer. Perhaps trying to make up for her previous mistake, Sophia tried to go faster. As a result, a few of the metallic orbs touched the fragile 5th glass wall. A shattering sound echoed through the room, and the orbs dropped to the ground. Sophia collapsed, her face twisted into a bitter smile. She had failed again. The staff members didn't say anything but asked if she'd like to try once more. Sophia understood that she was still a way off from becoming a level 2 psychic master. At this moment, a voice rang out, telling Sophia that she can make it. Everyone turned to find Lu Sheng, who approached Sophia with a calm demeanor. He noted that Sophia had the potential, but was employing the wrong method. He suggested that instead of only focusing on what's ahead, she should also keep an eye on what's behind. Sophia blinked, not understanding what he meant. Lu Sheng patiently explained that her method of adjusting each bead's position in front of each glass layer, then making them pass through and then adjusting again for the next glass layer was very time-consuming and very demanding on her psychic strength. This test, he surmised, was actually about a psychic's ability to compute and plan ahead. If she plans out which holes the orbs will pass through from the very beginning, and then connects those points, she will have a clear route through all 5 layers, Lu Sheng explained. All she has to do then is control the 15 orbs to follow 15 different paths. Sophia's eyes lit up, seemingly grasping the idea. The staff members pondered Lu Sheng's words, nodding in agreement. The staff looked at Lu Sheng with admiration, but still pointed out that accomplishing this strategy in such a short time frame, determining 15 routes and calculating distances and speeds, was incredibly challenging. Lu Sheng shook his head. For the average person, perhaps this calculation might seem overwhelming, but for a psychic practitioner, this method should be a piece of cake. As he spoke, Lu Sheng looked over at Sophia, signaling her to pay close attention, as Lu Sheng will only demonstrate this once. Sophia blinked in surprise, and the staff members wore the same expression of bewilderment. Then, the very next moment, they all watched in horror as all of the metallic orbs inside the box on the ground began to levitate, swarming closely together like a vast colony of bees. With a swift gesture towards the glass wall, Lu Sheng commanded the countless orbs. They dispersed instantly, shooting through the holes in the wall with incredible speed. The beads quickly coalesced into a massive block, rapidly passing through the round holes in the glass wall. The number of round holes in the glass wall wasn't nearly enough for the number of beads, yet every single bead managed to pass through in a precise and orderly. By the time the last bead passed through the first glass wall, the leading ones had already passed the third and even the fourth layer. All the beads moved as if they had a consciousness of their own, swiftly weaving between layers of glass wall. In just a few seconds, soon, the swarm of beads had reached the other side of the last glass wall. Lu Sheng turned to the stunned Sophia, telling her that it was indeed simple. Once the concept was understood, they just needed to pass in sequence. Sophia remained silent, unable to find words. Lu Sheng then looked at the staff and asked, "How many seconds?" The staff, almost reflexively, glanced at the timer and blurted, saying it was exactly 10 seconds. Even the front desk, who had led Lu Sheng in earlier, was left in utter silence. Lu Sheng then inquired if Sophia had understood. Sophia had clearly seen how the nearly 1,000 beads had managed to safely pass through layer upon layer of glass walls to reach the endpoint. Each bead's flight path was evident and clear. But how did Lu Sheng do it? It felt like a magician performing a trick right before her eyes. She could clearly see each of their movements, yet couldn't understand how it was done. Their minds struggled to grasp how nearly 1,000 beads managed to navigate through the intricate holes in just 10 seconds. If it was really done in the way Lu Sheng described, with nearly 1,000 metallic beads, layers of glass walls, and thousands of tiny holes, it would be an astronomical and intricate computational task. The scene they had just witnessed was profoundly shocking and overwhelming for their senses. The room fell silent until the staff snapped to her senses and urgently beckoned the young man to call the guild president over. Inside the president's office, an elderly man wearing a t-shirt and sandals was sitting in front of a computer. His eyes were fixated on the screen. Even as a level 4 psychic master, he couldn't become a gambling god, he mused. The front desk rushed to the office door without even knocking, bursting in. The elderly man didn't look up but inquired why he was so panicked. The young man raced to the president's side. The young man was at a loss for words but recounted everything he had witnessed. The president was engrossed in his game, barely paying attention to the young man's words. The young man urged him to check the surveillance footage. Reluctantly, the president paused his game and pulled up the surveillance. On screen, Lu Sheng was undergoing a psychic power test, the brilliant golden glow emanating from his hands illuminating the entire room. For the first time, the president's expression shifted. Accompanied by the soft hum of the equipment, the breaths of everyone in the room grew tense. Soon, 2 numbers appeared on the display. Psychic strength, 435.87. Psychic purity, 126.02. Everyone stared at the numbers in disbelief, thinking the machine might be malfunctioning. Only the staff understood how terrifying these numbers were. The Psychic Association's purity standard for a level 2 psychic was 1, and even for a level 4 psychic master, it was only 10. 435 psychic strength was shocking, but this purity level is purely impossible. The staff recalled the strongest psychic master here was their president, who was only a level 4 psychic master. Yet the young man before them, with the appearance of a high school student, had a psychic purity that was 12 times that of an average level 4 psychic master. Upon seeing this, the president hurriedly exited his office and rushed into the testing area. He asked the staff to double-check if the equipment was malfunctioning. She reassured the president, stating that the equipment was functioning perfectly, as they had just tested 2 individuals before Lu Sheng. Lu Sheng, appearing somewhat puzzled, asked why they were reacting so strongly. Was there an issue with his scores? The president quickly explained that Lu Sheng's results were so astonishing that it was hard for them to believe. He then quietly inquired if Lu Sheng was perhaps the descendant of a level 7 or level 8 psychic master. Lu Sheng shook his head with a smile, stating he didn't come from such an esteemed background. He then inquired if he could proceed to the final test. The president, wiping sweat from his forehead, asked Lu Sheng if participating in the final test was really necessary given his astounding abilities. Lu Sheng just shook his head, remarking that for him, it was merely a simple task. As he said this, he casually glanced towards the glass wall. As soon as the staff began the timer, the iron beads in the room transformed into a dragon-like stream, piercing through the glass effortlessly. Lu Sheng felt he could even go faster. In no time, all the iron beads passed through the final layer of glass. This second attempt was even faster than the last attempt. The staff, trembling, looked at the timer. 4.25 seconds. At that moment, everyone in the room felt as if the air had been sucked out, leaving them breathless. This task was even more difficult than the one Lu Sheng had performed earlier, yet he managed to reduce the time by half. Observing Lu Sheng's effortless demeanor, it was clear that he had not reached his limit. As the president of the Psychic Masters Association, he was well aware of the difficulty of what Lu Sheng had just accomplished. Even he couldn't achieve what Lu Sheng did. The president believed Lu Sheng's ability was approaching the level of a grandmaster's psychic control. He was at a loss for words, overwhelmed by what he had just witnessed. His attitude towards Lu Sheng changed completely, addressing him with deep respect, and even referring to him as Sir. This was a respect for strength, regardless of identity or age. The president decided he would personally craft and present a certificate and badge to Lu Sheng. However, he expressed some difficulty. He could only issue a level 4 Psychic Master certification here. For a higher level badge, Lu Sheng would need to go to the capital city. Lu Sheng, noting the president's drastic change in demeanor, felt slightly amused. He told the president not to be so anxious. The president is much older than he was. There was no need for such formal titles. In Sophia's eyes, Lu Sheng seemed to be surrounded by an aura of greatness and mystery at that very moment. Beneath his upright and handsome appearance, there seemed to be layers of mist, giving her an indescribably mysterious and majestic feeling. Sophia stammered, asking Lu Sheng how old he was. Lu Sheng replied, he was 18, and he was preparing for the unified examinations as a high school student. He wondered if Sophia thought he was one of those who look young on the outside, but have actually lived for who knows how long. Sophia nodded seriously. That was exactly what she was thinking. Lu Sheng smiled at Sophia, telling her that she should read fewer fantasy novels. Lu Sheng is about to take the unified exam. The Psychic Master certification can help him earn extra points in the exam. That's why he came here specifically for the assessment. Sophia felt a bit dizzy. Today's experience seemed too surreal for her. She looked at Lu Sheng and asked if she had one more chance for the assessment. Should she give it another try? Lu Sheng earnestly replied, telling Sophia that she had the talent. If she is more focused, she can surely pass. He gently lifted her arm, trying to help her relax. Sophia's face turned red instantly, her heart racing. As Lu Sheng instructed her on how to proceed, she didn't hear a word. It was as if time had stopped. Sophia looked at Lu Sheng with a flushed face, her emotions a mixture of feelings. She bit her lip, her heart tumultuous with emotions.